speaking of worst or horrible, and this is the reason why this episode is probably going to go over long, because normally that would probably be a good way to end the episode, but it's the end of the year, and I figured, as a treat for anyone who is, listening, that the end of the year should actually be a best and worst like type of thing, and we'll probably won't do that a lot of the best and worst, but
definitely a special for the because it's because this is gonna be the last one we do for 2021.
Yeah, it's definitely a special moment. And I figured we'd do the worst of the year first before we talk about the best.
Oh, yeah, save the best for last.
Yeah, so it's very easy categories. And if you don't mind, I'll be looking at the categories that I came up with last night, because it's like literally just 5 categories, and a 6th category that was like the WTF news of the year, but that's all like its own like type of thing. Actually, you know what? We'll start with that one first. So 2021 has been a strange year overall, especially in entertainment. But Hayden, in your eyes, what would be your pick for the WTF news that you heard of this year that made you go, what the fuck? Like not like a hiring, a firing, just like something that made you just go, what the fuck? Like really, like that, in terms of entertainment and stuff like that too. Because again, I'm not talking about like a hiring, a firing.
Just something that really made me go, what the fuck just happened, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I feel like this is an easy one, and honestly, if I had to guess, I feel like we might even have the same one. But I have to go with the Rust shooting incident.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that was definitely the most what the fuck kind of thing that I feel like happened in terms of entertainment in 2021.
I had a different one. I actually had the more WTF moment of Disney doubling down on firings of not only Gina Carano but also Letitia Wright. Letitia Wright, like their anti-vax like nature and stuff like that, and like really doubling down on this is why I believe in. Like now is like early this year when Gina Carano got fired. I was like, that was a big WTF moment, because like, they were actually preparing her for her own show on Disney Plus, with the Star Wars thing.
Mm-hmm.
But then you kind of like figure, and then you just kind of like see her as she's like a very pro right wing type of like actor and all that stuff. But then
then she immediately went over to like the Ben Shapiro to join his right wing studio, whatever.
Yeah. And then what really made me go WTF, especially with that, because that was like the appetizer, But then the Letitia Wright thing really came about again, where it's just like, and this is something we just talked about like a couple of weeks ago, where it's like Black Panther has yet to really been finished filming because they're waiting for her to like get better from an injury. But then I read, in like a Deadline or something like that, that apparently they stopped filming because of the vaccination requirement, and how she doesn't want to get her vaccination requirement, and how apparently she's now done with the movie, where it's just like, unless they decide to recast Shuri, that is a very big problem of a movie that is basically a farewell letter to T'Challa or Chadwick Boseman in general. Mm-hmm. And then you have someone who's literally just holding up the line of not wanting to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
and there have been so many conflicting reports on that, on like her status in the MCU too. Like there's some that say no, she's going to finish the movie, and there's others like no, she's not going to finish the movie, and then there's some that say she's going to finish the movie, but then she's leaving the MCU after that.
Yeah, and there are way other like what the F moment, like what the F stories that happened over the year. But I figured like the Russ story and the like Disney really doubling down on the firing, but also the Letitia Wright stuff is it's definitely the type of things that made you go, wow, that really happened. Like, especially with something like Rushed, it's like, the Astro World concert thing, that was another what the F moment, where it's just like, people died because of shoddy security.
Yep.
And another thing where it's like Hulu actually released a documentary for like a minute or two before they dropped it because of people being released on people seeing that was a horrible decision to put a documentary on that on Hulu about what happened there. All right, so yeah, of course, if we had more time, I mean, of course I could have more time, but if I had more time, but since 2021 was like a strange year overall in terms of like with entertainment, in terms of just like news and stuff like that too, is like trying to think about like the strangest moments that happened during this year becomes more apparent when it comes closer towards the end of the year, because it's like the strangest stuff happens more towards the end of the year as opposed to the start of the year. Start of the year, weird stuff happens, and then summer hits, people like more enjoying the stuff, and then by the time fall hits, like that's when the weird stuff happens.
I will say 2021 was an exception in terms of just weird stuff in general.
Oh yeah, it wasn't,
because it definitely started off weird and then and then crazy, and then it just kind of seemed to morph from there. But yeah,
it definitely fell like less crazy towards like April, May, something like that, and then summer. And then summer hit, and like, okay, summer hits, and then suddenly back to
things are normal, it seems like, and then we're back into crazy town.
Yep. And so yeah, that's our WTF stuff that happened over the year that we just think that like WTF, like the news that you just hear, and like, yeah, just WTF. But in terms and now we go into the actual thing of the worst of 2021. So Hayden, do you so what we had was essentially 5 categories. It was, excuse me a second. It was worst film, worst director, worst performance actor, worst performance actress, and I guess worst new TV show or worst returning season of a returning show. There we go. And it's the same thing with best. So it's like 5 same simple categories. So like film, director, performance, and new TV show or returning TV show, and see how we go with that. So yeah,
we could do them like one at a time, or like
that's probably better. So Hayden, what is your pick for the worst film of 2021?
This is a tricky one.
And please don't say it's The Last Duel, because Ridley Scott will find us and give it and give pull our ear.
No, yeah, I wouldn't do that. I mean, I don't want to, I don't want to give Ridley Scott more reasons to go on drunken rants, although those would be funny. Yeah. But I actually wouldn't call that the worst. I would say that would be average. Yeah. I think the worst, honestly, I kind of have to go with, and this is actually a tough one, and we'll tie into like the IMDb list a little bit. Yeah, I actually have to go, huh?
Because that's what really struck me about making this list first, and because I do want to talk about that IMDb list after this.
Yeah, because it's funny, because I'm looking at the list, and I'm like, this actually does kind of already, play like factor into some of my categories anyway too. Yeah. So I kind of have to go with Godzilla versus Kong for the worst. I almost was tempted to put Army of the Dead, but I just didn't bother to watch it, so I don't think that'd be fair to say it's the worst if I, since I didn't actually see it. So I'm gonna go with Godzilla versus Kong, because I went into that with a lot of hopes that this was gonna be good, but its story was so lackluster and so ridiculous. The acting, they're just really, it didn't feel like there actually was acting. It didn't feel like there was anything Like you could literally get rid of the actors, and you could still, and it could still, and just replace them with like robots that don't say anything, and it could still probably have worked. It's just a movie that essentially relies so heavily on the visuals and the special effects that it doesn't matter what the story was at all.
Yeah,
And I honestly just did not give a shit by the end of it. I'm just like, okay, whatever. I feel like I just kind of, whatever, just wasted a couple hours.
yeah, I had the same exact thoughts on Space Jam 2. I mean, yeah, it's an easy thing to say Space Jam 2 as a worst picture of 2021, but it's like the same thing you just said about Godzilla versus King Kong. At least with Godzilla versus Kong, I was thoroughly entertained throughout the thing because I love Godzilla, I love King Kong characters, and with Space Jam, it was the same. It's like with Space Jam, it's the same problem that it's the same thing that Ghostbusters Afterlife had, whereas they played up more of the nostalgia of the first movie, and or rather, the pre, or rather just Space Jam, and having all these people come out and stuff like that too. But
Yeah, like they fell right into the like one of the big sequel traps,
yeah,
especially with
and
something that's already been that is so beloved.
there's a scene in Space Jam Legacy where Porky Pig raps, and I'm just like, okay, that's actually pretty funny because Porky Pig as a rapper would be hilarious because he stutters all the time, and then suddenly he raps as a singer, and then that's a hilarious thing. And there is a Michael B. Jordan cameo in the movie that is probably the most hilarious portion of the movie where it's just like, oh, Daffy Duck goes to get Michael Jordan, but it happens to be Michael B. Jordan, and I'm just like, Mike, can you just stay and actually be can actually just take over as the hero? It's come on, you know, but we gotta be stuck with LeBron James. But
No, he has to go be without remorse.
yes, which I haven't yet to actually watch, and I actually do enjoy Tom Clancy stuff, but it's I just haven't yet to watch Remount Morse. So yeah. But yeah, my pick for worst movie of 2021 was Space Jam and 2, and I can understand why Godzilla vs Kong is your pick, because Godzilla vs Kong, it had its moments of story problems. I will admit, it does have its problems with story, but I could easily forego that with just like, okay, it's Godzilla versus King Kong. Do I really need a good story about this? Do I really need a reason why Kong is able to find an axe of his ancestors in the Hollow Earth? I'm like, do I really need to know why?
Also, how the fact that that's sort of like interdimensional, essentially Middle Earth whatever travel is possible in the first place. And how he's able to just casually climb back up to the top when it was such a big deal to actually do it in the first place, and now it's just so casual, it means nothing.
Yeah, and
I understand your pick for Space Jam too. Like, the only reason I didn't pick that, again, is for the same reason I didn't pick Army of the Dead. I didn't see it, so it's not fair to pick something I didn't see.
And yeah, and I think it also does. It also has to do with the next pick, which is directing. And so the worst director, again, is probably Space Jam's director, Tim Story, although I could understand why it was a little hard for him because the original director was dropped out because WB didn't like his style of thing, and they didn't like the humor that they did. But Tim Story's directing was really lackluster in terms of the actual story because you would expect the guy to be actually have fun with this type of concept, and here is this movie that doesn't really feel like it leads into the wackiness of a Looney Tunes cartoon. I mean, yes, it has those moments, but those moments are really far in between of everything else. It plays out like a very genuine. It actually does play like a movie that LeBron James wanted to do. And I'm not saying LeBron James is a horrible actor. I'm just saying oddly enough, his performance actually was kind of good. Yeah. And I'm not saying, and he won't be like the worst performer of the year. Trust me, I have an idea who the worst performer is, but yeah, Tim Story's directionship of a Looney Tunes thing did not work as well because it had a very conflicting genre where it didn't want to. It was a Looney Tunes cartoon come to life versus a family drama, and it really did not. And his direction really did not really fit well for that. So Hayden, who do you think is the worst director or worse? I wouldn't say worst director, but someone someone whose directing really didn't live up to par this year.
This is a tough one. Because it's like a lot of my problems with movies usually tend to be more from the story aspects. So it's hard for me to kind of differentiate what's like the director's input and then what's the story input, and then it kind of depends on how much is the director's, because especially if it's the director's story as well, then how much of that is kind of like. I kind of want to go with Eternals, only because it's just one of those things where it's like they never just because they never should have made it as like a movie. It should have been a like one of those miniseries that Disney does, so they could actually spend time with all the characters, because they literally introduced too many characters at once.
Yeah.
So it's like, of course, directors are going to put the focus on who essentially would be considered the mains. But then it's like you do lose, all the other characters you're trying to introduce at the same time.
Yeah, and it is like hard to say that. And I'm pretty sure Chloe Zhao does like her best in terms of like directing like a Marvel movie, because I love the fact that they
and I feel like if she had a different Marvel movie that wasn't trying to introduce like 7 or 10 new superhero characters at the same time in just one movie, then that'd be a different story, of course.
And it's like it brings out the notion of what is the best way of directing a Marvel movie, especially now, because directing a Marvel movie is very formulaic, as we were just talking about before with No Way Home.
Exactly. So what liberties do you even have too with that?
And I think it's actually a lot more better in terms of whatchamacallit. It's actually a lot more in terms of just liberties, because I do think that the liberties that she took was actually pretty good, because she actually filmed a lot of things on location, and I do appreciate that, as opposed to filming everything on a big green soundstage, like everything else. But
it's one of those things too where it's like, see, I could find a counterpoint with that. Would say Shang-Chi, like when they're doing that incredible action scene on the bus, where they're mixing in blue screen, but they're also mixing in a great deal of practical work as well.
Yeah.
So it is one, because it's like if they tried actually doing that on like a San Diego, or not San Diego, the San Francisco like hill, that would have been impossible to really capture all of that.
Yeah, and it's rather hard to do that too, where it's just like, especially since the bus scene is also driving, and all that stuff. So it has to be both practical and also impractical to have it on to have it as a CGI recreation too, especially how.
Yeah, like if you want to see like how much effort and work they put into really just with that particular scene, go watch Corridor Crews, the VFX artists react, and like type in like Shang-Chi or Shang-Chi, however the pronunciation is, and it's like they literally like essentially interview in a sense the people who were involved in the stunt production of that. And
Yeah.
it's a like that. Yeah, they go into so much detail of everything they did. Well, just the movie in general too, but really they've spent so much time on that bus fight scene, and it's amazing to hear about.
Yeah, and it's definitely one of those things where it's just like, yeah, it's definitely one of those things where it's just like, you have this idea of doing all that, and then suddenly it's just like, and again, Internals didn't really strike me as a movie I want to go see. It's like I do want to go see Internals, but like with Black Widow, I'll just probably wait until it's like
on Disney Plus, yeah.
Disney Plus, and just like wait until that, because with Shang-Chi, it's like it has more of an action-driven thing, and like the same thing with Black Widow, it didn't really look visually interesting. Shang-Chi looked visually interesting. Eternals looked visually interesting, but the story didn't look visually interesting. And with No Way Home, it looks like it's both things are
like firing at all cylinders.
Yeah, for the most part. But okay. So we just talked about our worst worst film and worst director, or I wouldn't say worst director, but director who really didn't who didn't live up to their expectations. So it's not like they didn't try hard. It's just that their stuff really couldn't really, finish and whatnot. Now, I'm just going to wait until I hear what you think is the worst performance by a actor for this year is before I go and talk about it.
Okay, so I gotta try and find this guy. So I watched so it was season 3 of the Netflix show You.
Yeah.
And there was this one particular actor who I swear to God, he literally looks like he is horny all the time for the character of Love. Like that's his only that's his only thing he does acting wise. Constantly horny for the character of Love. And it's so frustrating to watch his character because he is so stupid. He is so annoying that I'm watching it and I'm just thinking, somebody please just kill his character off already. I'm so tired of watching him. I don't care how horny you are for her. So my worst pick has to go for worst actor or worst performance from an actor, Dylan Arnold, who plays Theo Engler on season 3 of the show You on Netflix.
Oh, poor Dylan. And the sad thing is, he's actually a credible actor, because if you watch Halloween Kills, he actually puts up a very good performance in that. And he actually, and if you watch Halloween, you actually want to punch him in the face too, because it's like he plays a character that is just like horrible to watch, horrible to watch, especially in the first Halloween movie. And then in Halloween Kills, it goes, and you basically go, I want to punch him, but then again, I want to be like, you know what? He's doing a good job as an actor. I want to see how he pulls through. And then it was like, oh, okay. Oh wait,
and it was probably by design in the movie that you want to punch him, but that wasn't the case with You. And also, fun little tidbit. So the actor Theo actually is in real life dating the actress who plays the character Love.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, so you're using your real life horniness, I guess. So I guess you're going a little method or whatever, but it's like, there has to be more than this character than just that. Like, we barely scrape the surface of his strained relationship with his father. Like, they really barely get into it. And the only reason that they even do engage with each other that we see sometimes is because he's trying to help the character of Love.
Yeah.
So it's like, again, all of it still comes down to the fact that his character is so goddamn horny for her that there's nothing actually interesting about him. And there are a few intriguing characters in this show that it's like, you see what, you see the kind of social commentary or whatever that they're doing with them. But it's like, yeah, it's just so ridiculous that it just took me out of it. And the season was already a mess to begin with, but we're going to get into that for later.
Yes. and right after the actress thing. So, Mortal Kombat is a series I love, especially as a thing. But miscasting wise, there is, and this is something that the channel Dead Meat just recently did because James Easy for the kill count was actually just covering the Mortal Kombat movie on the kill count, and he kind of hit the nose on the notion of the casting of Lord Raiden and Shang Tsung. Yeah, Shang Tsung. And the casting, it was good, but the acting and the direction for the characters were really, really not that great. And the character of Shang Tsung was played by, I believe, Chi Han, who previously was played Lao. Previously was famous as Lao in The Dark Knight. So he's a good actor, but he did not really fit the role of Shang Tsung. Shang Tsung is a ageless, sorceress, immortal, what have you, who sucks the role. Sucks the role.
I mean, and essentially, he kind of, in a way, you could say that's kind of what happened in that movie.
He just sucks the rolls. That's what Shang-Chi does, is that he just sucks the rolls of people and just becomes their role. But anyway,
that would be a much more interesting Mortal Kombat if that was the case.
Yeah, it's just but I'm trying to remember what the actor name is for Lord Raiden. But yeah, the character for Shang-Chi Shang Tsung is Shang-Chi, Jesus. Shang Tsung is so miscast is that he's supposed to be this ageless, immortal character who is a sorceress, and he's a very villainous type of character, and the way they play him is not the way you think because because of who previously played him, it's very hard to try and emulate who previously played him. It's like the same thing if they do in a Street Fighter film, and trying to emulate Bison is very hard, and trying to emulate Raul Julia, that's hard. But it's gotta be it has to be done. It's like the same thing with Joker. It's like Jack Nicholson, Mark Hamill, Heath Ledger, all legends in the field, and how do you do a role like the Joker and make it your own thing? And character like Shang Tsung is just so hard to do, especially with the character, unlike the other character, Lord Raiden, where it's just it's so hard to do. Where it's just you have two great character, you have two great actors, you have two great actors doing the role, and then they're very stiff. They're not really They're not really bringing their A game. Yeah, and I think that's the problem, is that they aren't bringing their A game. So Hayden, who do you think is the worst actress of this year, or worst performance, or worst actress, or worst performance of an actress, I should say? Because I have my idea, I have my thing, but actually, yeah, you go first. I want to hear if it might be the same person. I don't know.
Okay, so the one I'm picking is just more of the fact of how miscast, honestly, she was. And I have to go with Emma Stone as Cruella.
Oh, okay.
Because I just didn't buy that. I'm seeing the trailer and I'm like, I just don't buy her as Cruella. Yeah. I truly don't. So I think I have to go with Emma Stone for it. She is a great actress, but I think Cruella was not a movie she was, well casted in.
Not per se. It is from a Disney thing, but it was from a Disney show from this year. The poor girl who played Flag Smasher, or the lead Flag Smasher.
Oh my God, yes. Okay, I'm gonna add her to that list too, because that's how bad it was. I actually forgot about her, and I remember every character from that show except for her. And it's I got plenty to say about that too, but I'll wait and save it till you're done.
Yeah, so not only from a writing standpoint that the Flag Smasher was I love the idea of this revolutionary type of group who is like who is basically coming, like, who is just sparking from not only, from the snap and all that stuff, or the blimp or what have you, and then carrying that rage and energy. But you have this poor girl who played a similar character in Solo, as this revolutionary type of figure, but she does little with the role because of the way the role is written. And Flag Smasher is like, you would think Flag Smasher is this big villainous role, but it's like, and all she does is like whine like 95% of the time, and get her and get essentially her role like switched up because of everything else, or not switched up, manipulated. There we go. That's who I believe, and that's who I see as the worst acting performance as an actress. And I do feel sorry for the actress playing her, because again, I know she's still a relatively actress, because outside of this and Solo, I think it was just miscasting of just general miscasting, and the miscasting not working correctly in their favor. Falcon and the Winter Soldier is a great show. It's just that Erin Kelly, man, yeah, that's her. That's who it was playing Carly, or Carl. Yeah, Carl.
No, it was Carly. Yeah.
Yeah, Carly. I just call it Flag Smasher because that's who she's supposed to be.
Yeah. I agree with that completely. And it's like, when you watch the show, it is one of those things where it's like she was such a weak element that it's like, because everyone in her crew of Flag Smashers also have that same super strength. But why are they following her? Nothing about her strikes, me as like a kind of charismatic leader, especially because she's the only one who seems to be the kind of with this crazy revenge sort of plan of just like, kill everybody, so we can, get to live or whatever, or prove our point or something like that. But everyone else seems to kind of be like, are you okay? Like, everyone else seems to be reasonable. It's just her. And it's like, why are you all following her? Like, like the rest of her crew clearly don't want to be doing this, but they end up going along with it anyway.
Yeah.
I don't buy that for a second, especially because they all have super strength. If it was just her with super strength, okay, then I can kind of buy it. But they all have super strength. So how is it they haven't tried to, like, take over and be like, okay, yeah, we're just going to try to not go, crazy murder rampage, whatever. So yeah, they did her dirty for sure.
And another way of showing this is that Hawkeye currently has a villainous sort of like doing the same thing, where it's like she's Echo. The character of Echo, I believe that's the character name. The character of Echo, and she's doing essentially the same thing, where it's just like she has a group of people that she's leading, but she has the same thing where she wants revenge and all that stuff, and that's performed a lot better, because not only is the character deaf, so she has and also someone who is amputated, so she has like a prosthetic leg, compared to Carly, who has the super soldier. Oh, and another thing, the super soldier plotline was probably a lot more done better with Agents of Shield, whereas it's like they did it more better with it, creating a more better thing with the centipede thing, and creating a whole psychoticness of the thing, whereas it's like, and that was another thing, is like super soldiers, super soldiers become the way they are because of the thing. And I understand it wasn't like the full boost, it was just basically like a not temporary version, like a watered down version of the super soldier serum, so she didn't become like psychotic or what have you, or heroic as Steve or Bucky is. Well, Bucky, sons of Bucky, but
Bucky's kind of an exception because he also had all those years of like mental manipulation too.
Yeah, And well, and also I'm not sure if Bucky still has the same super soldier in him, or he's just like essentially just a cyborg with all that stuff.
Well, he has the strength though, because he could take those punches from super soldiers and be fine.
Yeah.
So I think he does. I think he still has the super strength, especially because he was able to go toe to toe with like Captain America.
Yeah, he may just have like the Russian version of the super soldier serum or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so yeah, that was my pick for the worst performance by an actress. Even though I do feel sorry for her, but yeah, Erin Kelly, man, I'm sorry, but
Mm-hmm.
it's
And
just
I have to add you to that one as well. Like,
yeah, I'm just sorry. It's like
honestly, I'm just happy to take Emma Stone off the list because I'm like, because Emma Stone is awesome. I love her, but like, yeah, I will gladly put that actress there just because, yeah, she was done dirty and it was a bad performance.
all right. Now you just mentioned TV show before, so what is your worst TV show? Either the worst TV show that came on, at least first season wise, versus the worst returning TV show. And I have a funny feeling who you just picked because you just talked about it. But before you do that, I'm going to do my talk because I got to talk because, I just went twice before and, I started. I might as well end it. So, all right. So my pick for the worst TV show is a no-brainer. Is Cowboy Bebop. It's just it. I watched the series when it came out, and I've had time to digest it, and I understand it being on Netflix. It's on Netflix, and it's like it's hard to emulate something that's like energetic and as great as the anime. So, and performance wise, John Cho and a couple of other actors, they give great performances, but a lot of it just feels just like it doesn't just feel like it's correct. It just feels like it's just happenstance on just just writing itself, and it's like same. It's like there's a certain genre of writing like that. I just can't remember what it's called, but yeah. That's my pick. Is just
and adapting an anime too into like a live action, that never really ends well. Like there are few exceptions where it does, but generally it just does not end well to try and do that. And you should, and they shouldn't. That's the thing, because it's like a lot of what you can get away with in an anime, you can't actually do in live action.
Yeah. So yeah, I have a funny feeling what you're gonna call the worst TV show because you were just talking about it now. So you might as well just you might as well just say why you season 3 was just horrible, just horrible.
Okay, yeah.
Or maybe it's not you, and it's it's some other show that I don't know of.
No, it's definitely you season 3. It is, because it's like I went into this with high hopes because they ended season 2 with such a crazy cliffhanger. Like, because I was liking, I'm like, hey, I'm liking season 2. It's kind of doing different things, and then that crazy cliffhanger really had me intrigued for where they could go with season 3.
Yeah.
And season 3 was such a bloody mess. Like, there's too many things they're trying to do at once. It feels like they're playing too hard into being social commentary, but don't actually do anything with it enough to actually warrant even doing the social commentary. And there's just this constant sort of like where the main character Joe is like, okay, do I try to make it work with my now wife who also has my kid who also is a serial killer? But then it just kind of also shows that he just can't beat his old habits of just like obsessing over another person. Yeah. And it just there's just so much that was done wrong in this show that it felt like there just was not a good enough focus on really on where it should have been. And then just the way he just seems to luckily get out of the situations unscathed, is more or less. At least survive.
Yeah.
And it just feels so convoluted. Like something like Dexter can get lucky, but
he has his repercussions.
Exactly. There are repercussions for what he does. That really doesn't seem to happen as much with the character of Joe. And that's what's kind of infuriating. But I will say, spoilers for the finale of the season, there is one good decision he makes that I think was the best decision his character has made in the entirety of the show. So spoilers if you don't want to see, if you actually do want to watch season 3 and you haven't seen the finale yet. 3, 2, 1, okay. So basically he ends up having to kill Love because Love is going to kill him, and then he fakes his death.
Oh my God, this is Dexter.
Yeah, he fakes his death, making it seem like Love killed him and then she killed herself, and then blows up the house that they were living in, more or less, and then gives away their kid to one of his co-workers who was already having trouble trying to adopt a kid because they're like a gay couple, and there was there's a whole stigma of gay couple trying to adopt and how much more difficult it is for them. So him giving away his kid to a good couple was the best decision he made, because him and Love were not good for raising a kid. Should not have been raising a kid to begin with. And I love the fact that he at least has enough common sense to realize, hey, I should not try to raise this kid on my own. I will mess him up. Which I don't think that was probably the intention he was thinking, but I feel like it probably had to be playing through his head at some point, because it is his kid. It is his biological kid. So it's like, so the fact that he did make that choice to be like, this is better for my child to give him to this other couple that are going to be better role models and parents for him than me.
At least what you can say about Dexter, at least he tried his best to become a father and for Harrison and his adopted son and daughter. Because at least they felt like
and his own biological son too until season 8, but we're going to get into Dexter, and we'll get there for the other part of this listing.